This is the Craig L. Hayes Show.
And welcome back to everybody. It's showtime, the Craig L. Hayes Show. Back with Randy Cardinal from the Northern Command Center here in Enterprise, Utah. We're talking about showbiz. It is the 10th of September, 2025, and we've gotten to about roughly early 1990s, 94, 95, somewhere in there. And we're going to move on to where Randy was about to exit stage left. A&D Scenery, and we were going to get together, and he was going to come work for me over at what was the Las Vegas Hilton at the time. So that's where we're at now, and we'll pick up from there. So to me, it was like 95, 96, somewhere in there, you left A&D Scenery, right?
Could be. I don't remember. I don't remember a lot. But
yeah.
But it was a blessing because I walked out on them because they were pulling some stuff, and I just couldn't deal with it. And luckily, you had a spot open and took me on, the crew, because I needed a place to work.
Well, the good thing about that was, excuse me, sorry. A lot about that was my brother John, who you worked for at A&D. He called me when you left and said, "Hey, Randy Cardinal isn't working here anymore. He quit. And if you get something open," and I said, "Give me his number." And I think the next day I called you. I was like, "I got room."
It was a blessing.
I was like, "I got room here. Come on over." It's assistant carpenter. But you're going to make all kinds of money here because this show does nothing but make money for us. Because, I got the picture of it right there on the wall. There's a huge stage, and these skaters beat the crap out of that stage and punched holes through everything and broke everything you can imagine. We lived there. We'd do our 2 shows, and we'd start fixing what got broken, and we'd work until 6, 7 the next morning, get out of there, and for 8 hours, come back, finish putting it back together, and hopefully get ready for a show. That was nonstop. That was every week, every few days in a week. We made so much money there doing that show.
It was a good job. Yeah.
It was great, and I think I had the best building crew as far as building anything, rigging anything, designing, figuring things out. I had had Ed Shower, who was an iron worker, great welder.
Yeah.
And I had Tom Wright, amazing carpenter, could build anything out of wood. He's like a Bobby Simmons practically, just could build anything out of wood. So when something would break, it'd be like, it broke, fix it. And you guys would just like attack it like those old cartoons where you see the smoke and you see the things in arms and legs and things. Pretty soon it's all done. It's all built and repaired and ready to go again. And wow.
I should have stayed there. I never should have gone to the MGM. That was a nightmare. I had a good job with you. I made a good buck, and I should just stayed there.
Well, it's probably better that you did leave, because I think you left after a couple of years, and I think within 6 months they'd closed the show.
Is that right? Yes, they are.
So you went to another job. You had a job to go to a job. Not that it was a great job, but it was a job, and it was paying, and it was a...
Yeah. The MGM job was a nightmare.
Yeah, Jubilee.
Anyway. Oh.
Big crew. How many guys on that crew?
Oh, I don't know, but it was a big crew.
Big cast.
And they were...
Big problems.
Yeah, they were aggressive. They weren't. It wasn't like a stagehand. Everyone had their own thing going on, and it was tough to be the carpenter there because you had to battle with them all the time, and you had to pay attention. They'd throw you down the elevator. I mean, and one time they keyed my truck.
Yeah.
So I was there for a couple of years, I guess, and then I couldn't do it anymore, But that was a mistake. But you make choices and you got to live with them,
Well, at least you got a couple of years out of it, because if you'd have, like I say, if you'd have stuck around with me, you probably would have been out there, because that crew went down from 24 on our crew down to I think it was 5.
Yeah.
Went down to almost nothing.
Yeah. Well, when the corporations took over, they cut the shows down to nothing anyway.
Yep.
I mean, and The show would never make money because if you had a star in there, you didn't have enough, like at the Dunes, there wasn't enough seating to pay for it. But back in the day, they knew they would give them a good deal. They'd go out to the casino and they'd lose money,
Yep.
you know. And they lost that, you know. I don't know what they do now, but
Everyone wants to make a dollar. I was listening to Glenn Beck the other day, and he said he'd gone to Vegas last week. And he went and saw Michael Jackson 1. I don't know which hotel. It was a Cirque show. And he said, worst show he'd ever seen. He said Vegas has lost its uniqueness. All it is now is how much money can we steal, grab out of your pockets and keep. And he goes, it used to be he would go there when he was younger and you could get, decently priced meals, decently priced rooms, shows were decently priced and all this stuff. He goes, everybody just wants to take every dollar out of your pocket, everyone on the food, on the room, on the entertainment. He goes, I don't gamble, but you'd end up not having money to go gamble because everyone's taking it out of your pocket before you even get there. He was just.
I'll tell you another thing. My son-in-law is an engineer at MGM now. They moved down.
New one, yeah.
Yeah. And it's rough on them, too. Even though they're in the union, they cut their pension. It's tough to be an employee for that same reason.
Yeah.
They pinch the nickel. Every nickel they want to have a big part of it, and it's tough to work there. But you got to work.
Yeah. And MGM being the big boy in town because they own everything in town practically, on the Strip. They just own so much. They've sold off a few properties, but they still own like the entire Strip,
Yeah, I don't know anymore.
Well, when they bought Wynn, they bought Wynn, they bought Circus, they bought, all these, they bought all these things. So it's so much stuff they have, But
if you set me down in the middle of the Strip, I wouldn't even know where I was.
I don't think I would. I've only been gone a year, but I and here's a truth. People who work like in the showrooms and the hotels and stuff like that, when you're off, you don't go your days off and stuff like that and go to other hotels to see what they're doing. You never go that. No, never mind. I can count probably 5 to 10 shows I have seen that I sat in the audience. I never saw all the shows I saw from backstage,
I went to see Fats Domino. I only saw some of the people that I, as a kid grew up, But I never went to any of the shows. And the one thing you had to worry, you had to stay away from the gambling. A lot of stagehands made a great living, but they left it at the tables, That was another
in the
thing.
bar.
Oh, yeah.
When they put the slot machines in the bar, in the actual top of the bar. Yeah, most people lost everything they had just sitting there having a beer and putting $20 in, another $20 in, and another 20,
Even dealers who knew it wasn't corrupt. You just couldn't beat the odds.
No.
And even dealers would lose everything. It was a crazy thing.
And that's one thing Glenn Beck said. He walked down the Strip, down Las Vegas Boulevard. He's looking at all the properties, and he goes, doesn't anybody realize they can't build these massive buildings because people win? It's like, well, he gets it. We understood it. I'm not a gambler. I think I lost $30 my whole life there.
Yeah, I'm not a gambler either.
I didn't drink. I didn't do the drugs. I didn't smoke. I didn't go gamble. Nobody ever made $1 on me in Vegas. So,
this friend of mine I talked about, Paul LaRocca, he married a second marriage, I think, and he used to take her to Vegas, and she got the gambling bug. So he called me one day and said, Paul, don't believe anything she says. Don't even believe what you see her do because she's got the bug. She's going to gamble your... He was a very wealthy man. When he died, he had nothing. And I kept telling him, but he wouldn't listen. He thought, I got it under control. I said, no, you don't. Hauser, Oh, I can't tell you how many stagehands were. They broke themselves.
Yeah.
You know.
And I know some stagehands that their wives did the same thing. You know, they just
Oh yeah.
they would just go down and, you know, at the Albertsons, at Smith's or whatever, just
Sure.
next door would 7-Eleven, whatever. Just got to go down there and try again. You know, I got to make that money back. You never make your money back.
You know, people used to tell me it was crooked, but I said it doesn't have to be crooked. They have a $2 million bankroll. You have $100 in your pocket. You can't play long enough to beat them.
No.
The odds are going to go against you. Anyway.
That's why they on some things they'll pay you 35-1 because they know you're never going to hit that 35-1.
No.
But you're going to see that and go, that's a good odd. I want to play that. You know, it's like, you know, the best thing to play is what, blackjack, because it's a 50-50.
Yeah.
If you're going to play roulette, you play either black or you play red. That's it. It's a 50-50.
Those are You know, I'll tell you, as I worked at the Sahara in the slot department.
Oh, okay.
I made friends with a floorman, and he got me in the slot department so I could break in as a stagehand at night. So the way they set that up, I don't know about now, but there were certain machines that would actually pay the customer.
Mm-hmm.
The commission said you had to. But what they would do is they would move the guts of that machine around. So even though it was out there, if you had it one day, you're not going to get it the next day. They're just going to beat you, you know. But man, I'll tell you, so many people that worked there still lost their everything, their paycheck, you know.
And they would have all kinds of things they would do, like some of those slot machines that were set up to pay. You know, they had their shills playing them. They had all these things, you know. And they would always put them like next to the entrance to the casino, or next to, you know, check-in or something like that. And you'd hear people screaming and hollering, "I just hit it," you know.
Oh, you
know. But it was all showbiz. It was all just showbiz.
You know, when I became friends with this floorman, I can't think of his name. He was very nice to me. His dad was the mechanic. I used to talk to him, and he told me they set these things at a percentage. At the end of the year, they work out almost exactly to the percentage that they're supposed to.
Yep.
It's like an unwritten law, you know, mathematic. I don't know.
They've got it down, man. The mob guys had it figured out, and these guys did it in their head way back when.
Yeah.
They could tell you how much that machine was going to make you, and they, you know, and they had it figured out on how much weight when they do the hard count, and they'd take the, you know, buckets out of the slot machines, and they'd put them on the scales and stuff. They'd tell you almost to the dollar how much money was in those buckets by weighing them. You know.
I can tell you another story. I worked as a security guard in the Sahara while I was, you know. And so I used to push the thing around. Besides the gamblers, I'd push the gizmo around, the cart, when we collected money from the tables. So every time I take it in the back, they always had $100 bill, a couple sticking out somewhere. I guess waiting to see if I'd take it. But at the end of the night, they'd come out of the counting room, and all they were doing was cashing $100 bills. You know, the floorman and the guys that were running it. They were stealing the casino blind. You know. But
they all did that. That's that. I don't think they do it too much now because it's all watched so carefully now. Cameras everywhere, you know, and it's a whole different world, you know. And back in the days when you were taking money from the mob, you were pretty dumb.
I'll tell you another thing. Is it okay to talk about this? Yeah. I was a security guard at the Sahara, and then the Thunderbird was down. Now I can't think of the guy, but if I could, you'd know who it was. So they gave me $30,000 to put in my pocket to bring it over there, you know, or it was more. And I didn't know what to do. I did it, but I was afraid to do it because you didn't know who was out there, you know, and they used to do things like that. I guess that wasn't legal, but they would do that, you know, and take care of the guy next door, so to speak, you know.
Yeah. Well,
That was interesting.
a lot of times, casinos will accept other casinos' chips, tokens and stuff like that, and then would take and cash them out and have to send the money back over to the other casino. But
maybe that was it. Yeah.
And I saw the guys have to do that all the time on security. They'd get it.
But I didn't want to do that. But
No, it's not carrying around that kind of money.
no.
30 grand in your pocket. Yeah, that's a little.
And then if something happened, they're going to blame you.
Yep. We did a show one time, and the guy that was in charge of the show, he was the producer of the show, big gambler. Man, he made all kinds of money. He would make more money than what he would lose on the shows. He was just he won. He was
Yeah.
and he would have a meeting with everybody on the crew. This is at the Hilton later, and tell everybody what he wanted to work on in the show this day and this day. And I'm like, oh, well, get on it. And then he'd get up and he'd go out and leave, and he'd head over to whatever, to Win or Encore or Venetian, whatever, and go gamble, And he got up and he left, and I went back to the room. And I looked down, and I saw three $25,000 chips where he was sitting. They'd fallen out of his pocket. He didn't even think about them.
Really?
People are like, oh, what are you going to do with that? I go, simple. Let him know they're here when he gets back. Well, can't you just go cash those? No, you can't just go.
No,
you can't go cash a $25,000 chip at a Win or whatever like that. Those things are tracked. Those things they know exactly who has them. It's not by accident, guys. Dumb. People just think they can. And you go, you guys really think this? They don't have this stuff figured out? Boy.
I used to sit when I was security. I'd go upstairs where they had the eye in the sky. Back then, it was a guy sitting there watching different tables, and he was just amazing. He'd catch dealers palming it was an amazing thing to watch.
Yeah. Well, those guys were all thieves too. That's how they knew the tricks. They hired the guys that were the thieves. They didn't give them much of a choice. Well, you go up there and you catch the thieves, or we're gonna, there's plenty of room in Lake Mead to throw you in.
You know what they're going to do because you did it. Yeah.
So you're going to Lake Mead to the bottom, or you're going to go help us catch, guys that are cheating. So.
Yeah, working security was an interest. I've had some really interesting experiences there too. You know. But that's another story.
We can get back a little bit on the other stuff.
Yeah.
So after you left me, we did Bally's MGM, whatever you want to call it,
right.
Jubilee.
Yeah,
it's just Jubilee. Whoever owned the place, it didn't matter. It was just Jubilee to me. And you only did a couple years there, you think, or?
Well, I took the carpenter's job, and they were having a lot of problems, and they wanted to refurbish the show. And so I had done a lot of work, and so rather than tear it apart, a lot of times I would recover things and put the velour on over the velour, and they were trying to save them money and everything.
Yeah. But
the crew was hard to deal with. Argumentative, they always wanted to fight. And some of them were not stagehands, they just got a job, And Louis had the same problem. I mean, he relied on David Geller. He was pretty good, but a lot of guys, it was just a tough place to work, So after a couple of years, I just couldn't deal with it anymore. There was no point, when I'd leave to go get my truck, I'd have to watch behind me to make sure nobody was following me. It was a pretty tough neighborhood, And it was ridiculous, but it's how it was,
Some of those guys were there from when Jubilee rehearsed and opened until it closed. Yeah. 35 years, and they did the same job every night.
And they resented. See, I came in I'm new, so you know how they resented me.
You came in from the outside.
Yeah, I came in from the outside, and I knew Louis and I knew some of them, but a lot I didn't know them.
Yeah, I had a little bit of that when I went to Hilton for when we built for when they did Starlight Express.
Yeah.
The problem, the easier part about was a lot of the guys that were in there were fairly new to the union because they had been brought in from other hotels trying to organize and stuff like that. So it wasn't one of those things that had been around for a long, long time in the local, the electric crew, a lot of them were old hands, but the carpenter and fly rail, yeah, it wasn't like that. So got a little bit of that kind of a thing. Why didn't they hire somebody from inside? It was like, well, because they didn't. Get over it. And as I told people, don't have to be here. There's the door. It swings both ways. So.
But Bally was tough. They had the grid packed so you couldn't even move things, It was not done right, as far as I was concerned. And they brought a magician in, and he had a deal that he did behind the curtain, but the curtain closed the wrong way. So I built another lead carrier, and I said, we'll close it the other way. Now, it didn't make any difference to the audience, but we now had the overlap the right way. And boy, they fought with me. Won't work. I said, just try it. Because it didn't matter once you got to the center stage, however it overlapped, it just did it,
Yeah.
And I built it, made it so. But I had to fight with everybody all the time, and you couldn't get them to do things the right way. It's just how it was,
Yeah, I don't know how some of the guys lasted as long as they did running that, being there. I remember Alan Conroy was there for a long time. And
yeah, Alan, see, he left, and that's when I got
okay,
stuck.
is that time period? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Okay.
He was a nice guy,
Yep.
too. He had been a dancer, He was quite a nice big guy, And then he left. Maybe he couldn't take it anymore either. I don't know.
He'd been there quite a while.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Showbiz is what showbiz is.
Yeah.
It's the greatest business in the world. It's the most amazing thing. The stuff we get to do, all the exciting things, and but eventually it all comes to an end.
There were things like they brought guys in because they had to. It was a must, because you had to have certain guys on the crew. But like the breast curtains, they'd get in front of the curtain. So they're watching the audience, and you couldn't convince them to get behind the curtain, It was truly tough sometimes. It was terrible.
It's like, did you guys not? Well, obviously they didn't go to Stagecraft 101.
No. And you couldn't tell them. And some of them were just, they had to have the job. It didn't matter what they did or what they knew. They were going to have this job,
Built-in permanency. Yeah.
It became pretty tough to deal with,
Wonder how those guys fared once they closed that show.
Well, a lot of them couldn't. I don't know where they would go.
Yeah, that's my question would be the same thing. I don't know where you go.
Didn't know
and who would put up with your stuff.
Yeah.
Being the new guy and having that kind of an attitude, because we've all had that where the new guys, guys come from other shows and they come into your room and you start working them a little bit and they still have the same attitude they had at the other place.
Yeah,
it's like
they're going to take over.
It's like, yeah, you're not going to last here. Sorry, you're not going to work. It's not going to work with you, guy. When you left that showroom, you left everything there. You don't bring it with you, because this is my room and it's my way.
Sure, yeah. And when I came to work for you, I had been the boss all over the place, but now I wasn't the boss, and I did as I was told. That's how you do it.
That's how it's supposed to be.
But it didn't. It didn't always work. Not when they started bringing in people off the street that shouldn't have had the job.
And they didn't pay their dues. They hadn't paid their dues.
They didn't, So I finally, one day, I just packed it. I said, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
They even gave me a badge. They told me a new sheriff in town. And because I was trying to straighten it out, because it was so undisciplined and so, they were breaking stuff. And anyway.
Yep.
Louis was going crazy because he was very meticulous, Oh, what a place, yeah.
I miss Louis. Louis was so great.
Yeah.
What a guy that could figure out anything electrical. Oh, my heavens.
Incredible. Yeah. I wonder what his IQ, he was just a genius.
He was, He was just so good at the job.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. Well, that's the end of this episode. Let's come back in a minute. And we'll just talk a little bit that what's life been like since you left showbiz, and do you have the itch to get back into it?
No.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah, it's all right. We'll get that fixed up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Don't forget, okay?
Yeah, I'll get that covered up there.